Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing universals, middle terms, and epistemology by me. First, we're starting with middle terms. All men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. This is the meme syllogism. Everyone has heard this a million times. It's used constantly as an example. It will be used again. First, what is the middle term? Well, the middle term is the term which appears in the first two premises, but not in the conclusion. It has the use of connecting the first two premises and allowing the conclusion to happen. You'll see here that the middle term is man or men. All men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. It's in the first two propositions, but it's not in the conclusion. Something that's important to note here is that this has to be univocal. There has to be the same meaning for the term in the first and the second premises to allow for a valid conclusion. You can't equivocate. There can't be different meanings of the word man in between the first and second premises. Otherwise, the conclusion won't follow. Next, we have universals. Universals are just things shared by many individuals, like humanity, redness, and quantity. Just briefly for the use of this video, realism is going to mean any view on which there is an objective kind of similarity or sameness between one instance of a universal and another. So this is going to encompass all kinds of Platonism and moderate realism about universals. And then nominalism is going to encompass all instances of views which say that each instance of a universal is entirely different or not the same in any way from any other instance of a universal. And when I say the same, I don't mean like numerical identity. I just mean there is a kind of sameness. It doesn't have to be the sameness of identity. Now we have the knowledge of things not sensed. This is just things that you don't have immediate experience of, like history or something. Universals are abstracted through induction. So when you're looking around you, you see many instances of the color red, and then on reflection you can abstract the universal of redness from each of the individual instances of the color red. True things are known by use of universals as middle terms. So you'll remember in the original syllogism, all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. We gain knowledge of Socrates through a univocal middle term, which was a universal, the universal of manness or humanity. Socrates isn't a piece of our sense data. We only know about his mortality either from reports or from the fact that he was a man. Now, what's interesting here is that if you are a strict nominalist, if you don't think there's any kind of sameness between one instance of a universal and another, then you won't have a functioning middle term in any of your syllogisms. Whenever you make an argument like all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal, you're going to have the problem of Socrates' humanity, his manness, being something entirely different or entirely equivocal to every other instance of humanity or manness. There isn't any objective similarity between them in Socrates and the other men that you've encountered. So this universal that you've abstracted doesn't truly apply to Socrates if you're a strict nominalist, because each instance of the universal on nominalism is entirely different. And as a result, you can't learn things of Socrates by use of universals as middle terms. This has far-reaching consequences. You will be unable to know anything outside of your immediate sense experience, because every piece of knowledge that you obtain of things that you don't immediately have contact with is in some way related to your ability to abstract universals from particulars and use them as univocal middle terms. A quick side note, this is an application of this, is that this gets applied to the idea of being. On nominalism, being is equivocal in every use. It has the consequence of meaning that you don't even know what it means for something to exist if you are a strict nominalist. Something existing means an entirely different thing from one existent thing to another. So if you think that you have knowledge of something outside your experience, it could literally just be nothing, because the meaning of the term existence is entirely different when applied to that thing than it is when it's applied to the things that you have immediate knowledge of. So it could just be, like, for all you know, that thing literally does not have existence. Now, an objection responded to, but we do have knowledge of the world beyond our immediate sense data, so there must be something wrong with this. The response is just that this assumes the coherence of nominalism and our ability to know those things. We do have knowledge of things outside of our immediate sense experience, but it's via some real similarity between objects. It's not through some sort of nominalist induction. So this is the true consequences. Knowledge is limited to sense experience and a priori truths. You'll notice that this makes the existence of God entirely unknowable or undemonstrable, because God is something which is known via the abstractions that we make of cause and effect. Scotus and Occam would take different routes to this, or different approaches to this. Scotus used this as an argument for the univocity of being, as he thought that it was obvious that it was possible to prove the existence of God, and that you could find attestation to this in Scripture. As a result, he thought that univocity was a necessary Christian doctrine. Occam didn't think that being was univocal, and as a result, that you couldn't demonstrate God's existence. God's existence was something that you would have to take on faith. Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed.